Hi, I'm Stephanie Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Statue of Liberty horror. When Kira and Declan were in the US Navy, they served as excavation and recovery experts. From time to time, they heard rumors about buried treasure, but one such urban legend stuck with them. You see, it was believed that centuries ago, immigrants would pass by the Statue of Liberty while on the New York harbor, believing that the streets of America were paved with gold. But perhaps instead of looking up at the gigantic lady, they should have looked beneath her base instead, because the legend states that Captain William Kidd admitted to have buried treasure that was worth millions of dollars, somewhere at the base of Lady Liberty herself. And though people tried to get the location out of him, he kept his secret with him to the very end, up until he was hanged in 1701 for being a pirate. For over 300 years, people from around the world had tried to locate the treasure. And now, with inflation soaring, searchers for the treasure were at an all-time high. Having left the forces, Kira and Declan thought that they could use their excavation skills to look for the rumored treasure. They gathered all their research, including original blueprints. They even sought out a psychic, warning that no one who found the treasure would be able to keep it and their souls. But this just confirmed to them that the treasure was real and fueled their eagerness to find it. The plan was to take the kayak out to the island just before midnight and dig beneath the concrete base. Their arrival was met with no interference or security, and it seemed as though luck was on their side. They continued on with their quest using the measurements. They finally found the elusive X marks the spot. With the equipment in hand, the digging began. 2 hours in, sweat dripping from their brows, Kira hit something with her shovel, making a clanking sound. They could see the top of a chest, and it looked centuries old. When it was time to pull the chest out, Declan put in the head of the shovel and began to lift, but it wouldn't budge. He dug harder and deeper. Finally, the chest popped out, and so did the remains, which had been buried beneath it. Declan and Kira were sure that this was a treasure that no one else had been able to find, and just as they were about to celebrate, an apparition appeared in a puff of smoke and started to move around quickly, as if it had been waiting decades to be released. It swiftly chased the two intruders away from the chest. It seemed as though they had managed to outrun it as they made their way towards the water. Upon diving into the water, Kira began choking, and as she looked back, she realized that Declan had not made it out with her. She could see this creature clawing at Declan's back. Terrified, she started to swim further into the water, leaving the kayak, hoping that Declan would escape and catch up to her. She made it back to the mainland and waited for Declan. But after 2 days of radio silence, she was sick with worry and decided to return to the Statue of Liberty to look for him. She waited until almost midnight. The moonless sky made it difficult to find the spot. But when she did, it was paved anew, as if nothing had ever happened. As she stumbled away in disbelief, she saw something shining on the ground. She picked up the dog tags, expecting to see Declan's name, but they weren't his. Then she heard a moaning sound. Cautiously, she peered around the foot of Lady Liberty, barely able to make out anything in the dark, but as she moved further into the direction of the noise, she suddenly saw Declan tied to the statue. A scream freezing into her throat. Declan's face was covered in blood, his eyeless sockets weeping and his tongueless mouth unable to tell her what had occurred. The apparition who had chased her away appeared again. Kira ran, leaving her oldest friend for the second time as she raced back to the boat. This time, she packed up her belongings and left New York City for good, never to return. Dozens of people are arrested every year in search of Captain William Kidd's treasure, and to this day, no one has come close to bringing it home. But many have died trying.